If I told you my story, you would hear hope that wouldn't let go. And if I told you my story, you would hear love that never gave up. And if I told you my story, you would hear a life that wasn't mine. So if I should speak, then let it be of the grace that is greater than all my sin, of when justice was served and when mercy wins, of the kindness of Jesus that drew me in. Oh, if I was to tell you my story, it would tell of him. Those lyrics by Big Daddy Weave give me words to tell my why and share my story with you all today. My name is Kim Peterson, and this is my story. I was adopted into my forever family when I was just 6 weeks old. Oh, how wonderful to have a forever family with built-in brothers and sisters and a new mommy and a new daddy. How lucky to be chosen. All my joy should be made complete on that momentous day and going forward, right? The problem was that my parents didn't know how to walk with me through my pain as an adoptee. You see, I felt invisible in my family back then, and for the most part, I still feel invisible in my family now, and I'm 45. By the time I was just 6 years old, my parents divorced, and my dad left and started a new family. The two oldest were old enough to go live with friends. The two in the middle got to go live with dad. And suddenly I became an only child, rejected and abandoned. Yet again, growing up with my mom in poverty and condemned housing for 8 years, whereby my siblings enjoyed more stability, a sense of family, and an upper middle class lifestyle. It was at this time of now being twice abandoned that I learned that I was unlovable, that I was unworthy, and that I just wasn't enough. And this is the narrative that I grew up with until my mid-30s. It's safe to say that I grew up with a lot of insecurity and a lot of identity issues. There were problems out there, and there were for sure problems in here. And being part of a transracial family, it was extraordinary, tricky. I didn't fit in the white community, and I didn't fit in the black. And I knew I was different. People constantly pointed out the differences at school. I was teased, called bush monkey and nigganese. And my white family didn't know how to respond to that. I was a freak, never comfortable or confident in my own skin. I was frenetic in my own mind, feeling like I was suffocating with my own feelings and anxious thoughts. I so desperately wanted to belong, but I gotta get out of here. Do they even like me? Nobody loves me. Am I not good enough? I will never be enough. Please, someone, see me. But really, I just want to hide. A big part of the problem was we rarely talked about my lack of belonging. We barely talked about my being adopted, so it became like a denial of my reality, my heritage, and my struggle. Depression took over. Then, as a vulnerable youth, I was sexually assaulted, and by the time I was 15 years old, my depression led me to deep thoughts of suicidal ideation. The power of the subconscious mind, folks, I want to tell you, it was so strong that it woke me up out of a sleepwalk one night in the kitchen with a butcher knife in my hand. But clearly, it was not my time to go. You see, God had a much bigger purpose for me. I had more work to do here, and a very short time after, I came across the verses in the Bible, Psalm 139, verses 14 through 16. I didn't know of them then, but they're my lifeline verses today. It's where King David says, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in that secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one ever came to be. Reading this, I now know I was intercepted by God's amazing grace. And slowly the trajectory of my life began to shift as I felt known. I felt loved. I felt celebrated and protected. That said, in my fragmented identity, I looked for answers and love in all the wrong places until finally after college I married an abuser. And at 28 years old, that became the catalyst for me to take off all those dusty family of origin boxes and take them off those shelves and get to work on my healing. I now realize that adoption is a lifetime process. You see, the issues of loss and pain and identity get rehashed over and over and over again until somewhere along the journey we get seen, we get heard, and we feel loved and safe enough to work out our issues, or until the path of our own destruction causes us to do so. Today, but by the grace of God, while I have not arrived, I have experienced deep, precious, and tender layers of healing, and I now experience peace of mind and a sense of belonging and purpose through a ton of therapy, let's just be honest, life coaching and biblical counseling, and putting God to the test. I used to cry out, if you are who you say you are, then heal my debilitating wounds and set this captive free. Well, today, I am free. Amen. Yeah, give it up. Let's just keep going. Yeah, amen. Yes and yes. Today I am free and my identity is rooted and grounded in the love of Christ, and I know I am worthy. I know I am enough, and I am lovable, imperfectly, perfectly me. And this is my mister, who's in the audience today somewhere. I saw him. Give him a hand. My life. This is my mister, my husband of 3.5 years, my college sweetheart, who I believe God prepared and placed on my journey, knowing that his love was exactly what I needed today. I want you to know that my story is not in vain. It is a platform by which today I get to champion individuals to step into their integrated whole selves and step into their potential through my business called Uniquely Savvy. What I want you to know is that uniquely savvy is layman's terms for fearfully and wonderfully made. So parents, what's your story? What I now know is my parents were likely dealing with their own losses and didn't have the capacity to walk with me in my own pain. Can you relate? If so, be encouraged. This isn't about shame and it's not about judgment, it's about hope. And hopefully you can see that God is in the details, because look, he created beauty from ashes, and that's what he wants for you and your families too. But if I could be so bold to share from my very learned experience, I want to give you 3 things to take away, and hopefully you'll take this home to your children. Number 1, hold her face and say, you are loved. I love you, and you are worthy. Number 2, make your children visible. Acknowledge their story. Talk about your child's biological roots and their uniqueness. To do this is to not deny their identity, and it tells them that it's okay. It's safe to give voice to their reality. And number 3, remain in relationship with your kids even after they're grown, even after they turn 18 and they're out of your home. They still need you, mom and dad. And remember their birthdays. Remember their birthdays, you see, because as adoptees, we remember that that's the day we were born into this world. That perhaps if we weren't, we wouldn't struggle as much in our pain. We remember that that's the day we were likely relinquished and given up for adoption. Remember our birthdays. In conclusion, when you hear my story, my deepest desire is that you hear hope and that you see that God is in the details, that he is always at work around you, even when you don't feel it. I believe he is intimately acquainted with your very need and with the very needs of every one of your children. The hope is this. I believe that God is uniquely shaping you and uniquely shaping your children, that he is raising you up, that he is molding you up. And in the dark of the cocoon, much like that little caterpillar who is transforming from the inside out so that it can be a butterfly, I believe that in the dark of the cocoon, that's what God is doing. He is raising us up and giving us our adult-like structures so that when the time is right, we will emerge out of that struggle and out of that cocoon into the uniqueness of all we were created to be for such a time as this. Now, what I want you to know is I believe the call to be an adoptive and foster parent is immense, one that I can only speak to from an adoptee's point of view, and a modicum of experience when I took custody of my nephew. So let me encourage you with this from Isaiah 58:11. I believe that God wants you to know that the Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy you in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never, ever fail. So may you be refreshed, and may you be strong, and may you be courageous, knowing that the Lord your God goes with you, goes with your children, wherever you go. My name is Kim Peterson, and this is my story.